and countless diseases caused by food. The entrepreneurs in this session tell the tale of two battles: being entrepreneurs and fighting the unpopular fight of nutrition in a world with adverse interests to health. Over $3 trillion is spent on sick care caused by unhealthy food. Imagine what could be done with that money and how the affected people would thrive in the absence of those diseases. Let's explore the issues, uncover the dichotomies, tell of trials, tribulations, and also triumphs, and pose solutions to the complex problems of wellness and wellcare. Let's look at functional foods. Innovative food companies are looking for ways to give consumers healthier versions of the food they currently eat. This is done by fortifying them with vitamins, minerals, or other novel health ingredients. I'd like to tell you a quick story talking about innovative products. At Cargill, we ended up having an amazing story at our Diamond V facilities, a manufacturing company. All the wives working in the office got sick. All the men working in the plants never got sick. And we thought, what is this all about? We went out and found that the byproduct that was being rolled out from what we were producing was the actual aspect and the food ingredient that was keeping the husbands well. We ended up coining this as Epicore. And believe it or not, everybody's looking for ways to have meat with no antibiotics, meat that is from healthy cows. So we started feeding this Epicore to cows, and they all stayed healthy. We didn't need to inject them with antibiotics. And then we ended up making this product so it could be given to humans. The whole family, we all take Epicore 2 a day, and we don't get sick. And I just want to say it's an amazing product, and you can take the time to Google it, but it is an innovative way where animals and humans it works with their immune systems and their gut health. And look it up after, because it's a very amazing story. Okay, the next topic I'd like to look at is in looking at functional foods as medicine. There is no globally accepted definition for functional foods, and the FDA has not provided a statutory definition. It's commonly recognized as foods that provide health benefits that are beyond providing basic nutrition. According to the American Dietetic Association, functional foods include whole foods and fortified, enriched, or enhanced foods, and they have potentially beneficial effect on health when consumed as a part of a varied diet on a regular basis at effective levels. These foods include conventional foods such as grains, nuts, fruits, and more that naturally contain fibers or other vitamins that support your health. It also includes foods that have been fortified or enhanced with minerals, vitamins, or other health ingredients. For example, you all have yogurt, and that has added probiotics. Milk has added vitamin D, or orange juice with added vitamin C, as you all know. Fortified functional foods can support your health because it provides extra vitamins, minerals, or other beneficial health ingredients that may not naturally occur in your food. Functional food and potential benefits to public health. In the busy world we live in today, it's not always easy to eat healthy, and we all know that. That is where fortified functional foods may help. These foods may help provide extra vitamins and other beneficial health ingredients that may not naturally occur in your food. It's always advised to eat healthy first, but come on, guys, we all know that's not always possible. So functional foods can help you fill in the gaps. The potential role of healthy food or functional food to improve well-being. When looking at the benefits of functional foods, it's important that those benefits are supported by strong scientific evidence. This includes controlled human clinical studies that have shown significant results. Now I'd like to go to the best part of our day, and I'd like to turn to our knowledgeable panelists. We have Dr. Elizabeth Clotus. Hello, Elizabeth. CEO of Step One Foods. Liz is a world-leading preventative cardiologist trained at Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins and founding editor-in-chief of the patient education effort at the American College of Cardiology. She founded Step One Foods to create functional foods as part of the integrative approach to treating medical conditions. She is the author of Slay the Giant, the leading prevention book of American College of Cardiology. We look forward to hearing from you, Liz. Marshall OBrien, founder, CEO of Chef Marshall OBrien Group. Marshall can be found on TV, podcasts, teaching principles of how to prepare nutritious, delicious, affordable, functional meals. He founded the Chef Marshall OBrien Group to help educate everyone, young to old, in these practices and partners with numerous corporations and colleges to leverage the power of preparation for performance of students, athletes, employees, and the rest of us. We look forward to hearing from you, Marshall. Adam G. Sotham, founder, CEO of My Formulary. Adam is an innovator, strategist, and lifelong entrepreneur with nearly 4 decades of startup experience. He founded My Formulary in response to the need to provide a simple, trustworthy solution for consumers and clinicians to determine precisely what foods, beverages, and supplements will best benefit them. He patented efficacy engine relies on clinical facts and proven science to help treat and prevent disease. We look forward to hearing from you, Adam. I'm very excited to hear from all of these panelists in response to some questions I've put together. And I've broken the questions into 3 segments or themes: entrepreneurialism, functional food, and fighting COVID. As speakers for Twin Cities Startup Week, each of you have a vast experience in building your companies from scratch, and now have the opportunity to share your wisdom and others pursuing your path. So tell us, as entrepreneurs, this is under the entrepreneurship category. Let's take Adam. What made you decide to be an entrepreneur?
Wow, that's a great question, Debbie. Thank you. I think I wasn't capable of working with everyone else is probably the issue, but yeah, I mean, it's a long time ago, and the first thing that came to my mind is how would I change the world? So that would be the number one reason.
Thank you. How about Marshall? What are your thoughts on what made you decide to be an entrepreneur?
Adam took my line, but my whole thing is I want to change the world as well, and that's why I'm so excited to be able to collaborate with Adam when we have the opportunities, and Liz. I want people to understand that nourishing is different than eating, and when you are taking care of yourself and being intentional about taking care of yourself, you ultimately get to take care of yourself, and you're not relying on others to do so. So I just want to be able to help people connect, because a lot of people don't realize that at the end of the day, it's up to them and how they want to live their life and their quality of life.
Thank you, Marshall. And Liz, would you answer that?
Yeah, like I said, as Adam said, great question. So for me, I'm a physician. I never anticipated becoming an entrepreneur, but I was pulled to this. This wasn't something I pushed. I was pulled to it because I saw a problem no one was solving, and that is that the vast majority of what I treat is caused in part or in whole by food. And no matter how much I tried to do this through education, it just wasn't working. So I had to develop a line of products to actually help my patients.
That's very interesting. And when did you start this?
So Step One Foods has been in existence for over 5 years, but I would tell you that there's a long road before that to get to this point, from concept to actual line of products. It's a long journey.
Well, it's neat. You've been so successful.
Thank you.
Next question. I'll start with you, Marshall. What gets you up in the morning?
I'm fired up that I get an opportunity to connect with somebody. In today's world with, obviously it's all webinar now. I'm excited because I get an opportunity to be with someone in their home. And, like yesterday we had 150 people on a webinar, and then we had 75 at night on a different webinar. I get to bring excitement and passion to doing something that's so fundamentally important for you to take care of yourself. And obviously that's cooking, and then infusing nourishment into that fun experience. I get to inspire people. I get them to walk away going, I can do this. I can make this happen. So that's what gets me up. It's not easy, as Liz and Adam know, and other entrepreneurs out there. You commit to this, and probably every other day you go, why am I doing this? But I always remember why, because I know I'm making an impact. So that's what gets me up.
Curious, what do people like the best to eat with all the things that you do?
Oh, a lot of options. a lot of options.
Okay. Adam, what gets you up in the morning?
My alarm clock. No, in all seriousness, it is a privilege. It is a great privilege to do what I do, and it's all Liz's fault, because she's the reason I started my company, by the way. But I get the difference, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. And that gets me up early in the morning, surprisingly, and keeps me up late at night. And that's it.
Thank you. And Liz?
I think I'm going to echo exactly what Marshall and Adam said. Ultimately, what gets you up in the morning, it's not the bottom line. It's not that keeps you up at night. But what gets you up in the morning is, the fact that someone will have called, will have emailed, and would have said, thank you. You made a difference in my life. You made me feel better. You made me, manage my health more successfully myself, not just through a bunch of drugs. And that, I have never done anything more professionally rewarding than this.
That's exciting to hear your passion. Okay, the next question is, what is your single greatest strength and your single greatest weakness? And why don't I start with you, Adam?
I think understanding how to mute myself is my greatest weakness, and talking is my greatest strength. Perseverance is might be bold. So I've been at this for 10 years, and it's certainly my greatest strength. And fighting the fight of functional food, again, in a world where it's not popular, and we'll talk about this later, I'm sure. But COVID has waking up. I don't know what it is, but has the world thinking about this stuff, and thinking about their own existence now, and I hope that will become more pervasive. Greatest weakness is probably working too hard. Realistically, balance in life is essential for us fellow entrepreneurs, and I know all four of us. I know how you work, Muffy, so I know all four of us are working insane hours, and you've got to balance that with the vacation, and I'm looking forward to one this decade. So.
Thanks. You do work hard, Adam. Marshall, how about you? Strengths and weaknesses.
Thanks for asking, Muffy. My greatest strengths would be, I really care about people, helping people. When I do my webinars, and we do our various online series with various organizations, I'm always offering to stay on the webinar late, beyond what we contracted for. I'm always following up on emails through social media and that sort of thing. So I really want to help people. And then the second thing that I discovered probably 15 years ago is that I'm not bad at presenting on camera I can chop, slice, and dice without looking, and so I've got some skills at being able to make the message fun and engaging and exciting, and so those would be my strengths. And as far as my weaknesses goes, I'm a dreamer. I'm a shiny object guy, and so I really need to have very capable folks around me that can provide structure and organizationally help me make those dreams happen.
Thank you. Now everybody knows that they can email late Marshall. He's all set. He'll stay up.
Yes, Wilma.
Anyway, I'm gonna post your email address. Anyway, okay, Liz. Strengths, weaknesses.
Yeah, I think my strength, and these are things I've discovered as I've, actually become an entrepreneur. I think my strength is tenacity. Like just sticking with an idea, despite multiple obstacles, because I really believed in it, and continue to believe in it. I think my weakness would be saying yes to too many things and wanting to help, everybody and everything. And I've actually developed a little bit of discipline to say no. And that has actually been a self-preservation. It's really helped me, but that I would say is my greatest weakness. I want to do everything. So.
Thank you. I love hearing about all your tenacity and passions and all the positive attributes. Thank you. Next question is, what one pearl of wisdom can you share with future or fellow entrepreneurs? And why don't I start with you, Liz?
So I would say, don't listen to the word no. If I listened to that word every time I heard it, I would have never kept going. If you believe in your idea, if you feel like what you have to offer is new and unique and valuable, you have to stick with it. That would be my biggest piece of advice, because you will get a no at every turn. Thank
you for that. And Marshall?
Well, I would say that without us, the world doesn't change. So if you have the courage, and just second thing is, if you're going to do something, you have to be willing to pay the price for it, and meaning long hours. And to Adam's comment, if you really are obsessed with what you're doing, like, that's okay, because if you're not obsessed with it, it's probably not going to happen, and you got to totally commit. I've been on my path for 20 years, and I've made some very, very poor decisions that I would certainly do over. But you know what? I learned from them, and you grow up in the process, and be willing to get help. Detach the ego. A lot of people have an ego in stake at this, and I do to a degree. But I also know when it comes to operations, if it comes to certain negotiation stuff or sales stuff, I need to get help on that. So I do that. I think also another thing is, make sure that you have your bases covered to start. And what I decided to do, instead of doing like a full-time 9-to-5 thing and then doing this, growing this on the side, I said, well, I'm just going to do this 100%. And that was super, 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 super hard. And if you can do it, great, but probably 99% of the people can't do that. So I would have your bases covered and just be ready to pay the price, and you will succeed.
Thank you. That's very positive. And the thought about reaching out for help when you need it, finding out your partners that will make you look good, them look good. Thank you for that. Adam, what are your thoughts?
Well, I talked about ego and Marshall. No, just kidding. So, by the way, notice that the guys wore black and white and the gals wore red, and none of us talked to each other. We've obviously got ESPN. So for me, it's mentors, and I have had, again, the great privilege of having over 100 mentors in my life, maybe two. I try to pay it forward, pay it back, but learning from other people's mistakes. Don't recreate the wheel, and don't have the ego when it comes to thinking you can do everything, because you can't. I'm an expert in this little tiny sliver, the great spectrum that my company needs, and that's it. But I have to surround myself with the expertise from the people who have it. Otherwise, I'm a moron. No comments, Marshall.
Oh, I'll make a comment. No,
oh, come on, no.
No, but I think the theme is correct. You have to surround yourself with good people. No one can do this on their own. You have to have a team.
And thank you. The talk on mentorship, that is very, very important. And people who do reach out and get mentors, it really does help to become successful. Now, the next section is under functional food, and each of you have a role in improving population health through functional food and integrative medicine. So, Adam, I'm going to start with you, and could you explain your unique role in that pursuit?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, I'm unmuted. That's good. So, thanks to Liz, who diagnosed me with hyperlipidemia, which we need to try that 10 times fast, I was able to develop a solution that quickly and easily determines what foods have efficacy or are effective in the prevention or treatment of disease. So we've got it down. It's taken just a mere decade, but we've got it down to a science where you'll be able to use our app at the end of the year and scan a food product, and it's going to tell you green for go or red for no, and that's it. And the simplicity with all of this massive complexity behind it, the whole world can use it. And the whole world can use it, and every one of us is different. So what's good for me may be bad for you, and vice versa. So our role, my role, and this is my life's work, this is why I'm on the planet, is to get that tool out to the public. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you for sharing. How about you, Marshall?
People when they make decisions, about 75% of the time, it's all based on emotion. So when we're trying to help people improve their life, you can't talk healthy. You can't, because that's like one of the most vilified words in the English language. And so we really focus on the emotional benefits that get people excited. For me personally, I don't want to be a liability on my kids in 15 years. I'm in my mid-40s. When I was in my 20s, I thought I was invincible. So my reason why I have that connection to my kids, so that so I'm not a liability. But think about things like, if you're a firefighter or you work in a factory, foods for body repair, foods to reduce inflammation. If you're dealing with customer service issues or you're a manager, you have to make a lot of decisions. Foods for better mental clarity, foods to reduce stress. So we want to give reason for people, and we all have different reasons on this webinar today, but connect the reason so then they can start participating in the how and what. So that's our unique role, is to help people connect the reason and then provide them a very simple pathway to go from where they are to where they want to be. And then most importantly, teaching them how they can cook for themselves, or at a minimum know which foods will work for them into having those benefits that they want, rather than working against them all the time.
Thank you. That's excellent feedback in helping people to become self-responsible for their endeavors and their eating and their emotions. And Adam, what you were speaking about. Liz, what about your unique role in that pursuit?
Yes, so I kind of looked at sort of disease management, right? I see a lot of patients who have health issues such as hyperlipidemia, and anyway, and everybody sort of understands the concept of food as medicine, right? We all it feels so obvious, and yet there really are no products from a food perspective that truly fit that in that concept taken to its logical extreme, which is what we've done at Step One Foods. So my goal is to help people with high cholesterol reduce their need for medications through food. And, you know, and I sort of see the world as here's food and here's pharma, and there's like this whole big wide space in between that no one's really occupying. And so we feel like with Step One Foods that we're the, you know, we just planted a, you know, we planted a flag there, and we've done clinical trials, we've done analyses of cost effectiveness, we've shown results. So, and we've really tried to be very responsible about that first flag and setting a high standard on people who come behind us, because, you know, we are one company, we're solving one clinical issue, which is high cholesterol. There's literally no end to the chronic health conditions that couldn't benefit from targeted nutrition support. But we want that space to be filled with truly responsible, well-researched products, so that they truly help people, right? That this isn't a wild west of, you know, of various supplements and, you know, and claims that aren't backed by science.
Thank you. And I thought, Liz, one point you made at one of the talks I heard you at was you can't change an individual's diet overnight and just say, okay, you know, this is your diet. Explain what you did about how you add ingredients and foods.
So it's really about taking, you know, like, I know it's very hard to change a person's diet, right? Like, that's why they're in my office in the first place. So people who eat, you know, perfectly and exercise all the time, they're not in a cardiologist's office. So I'm dealing with individuals who are struggling with this, and it's hard. It's actually hard to eat in a way that addresses a health condition, unless you really know what you're doing, you know, if you're not going to turn your whole life upside down. So our approach is, okay, I know you will take a pill twice a day. Okay, what if I just have you eat a food twice a day instead of something you're eating already, right? I'm not asking you to be a yoga practicing vegan triathlete. Like, I'll support you if you want to do that. Like, I'll cheer you on, but I realize that you're here because this is not something that's attainable for you. So it's really about then formulating those foods to deliver the nutrients we know are missing from most people's diets, and we know the absence of which contributes to high cholesterol. So we make sure all our foods are full of whole food fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, plant sterol. So there's a really formulaic way that we construct these foods from whole real food ingredients. So, I mean, that's kind of the approach. It's truly like just twice a day. That's it.
Thank you. It's great advice.
Yeah.
Now, the second question, and I'll start with you, Marshall. How can functional food benefit public health?
That's an awesome question. I mean, if you think about, like, at least 60% of deaths are from chronic diseases, and a significant reduction in our quality of life is from chronic diseases, right? Well, 90% of those chronic diseases, and Adam, you talk about this, both of you talk about this a lot, are self-induced. So what we're eating, how much quality sleep we're getting, and how stressed out are we? So, helping people connect with themselves at the end of the day, it's up to me, is critically important. And it's such a huge cost on our healthcare system. And Liz, you would know this better than anybody. And people have to, like, COVID has lifted this veil that we've got. Like, it's not just a fancy talking point about how we have a healthcare crisis. I mean, we got a serious problem, and people have to start changing this, eat a steak, take a pill mentality, and start owning their life, owning their health. And Harvard came out with a really fascinating study about this 3 years ago. They're just saying, when you get diagnosed with a chronic disease, usually it's irreversible. You deal with it the rest of your life. And doctors, Liz, you should be talking, not me here, but, doctors can help you deal with your new life. But a lot of this is preventable. So, functional foods can tremendously benefit public health.
Yeah, so I'll jump in because I'll jump in because it's this is a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. Pardon the pun, but heart disease itself could bankrupt this country. We are on a trajectory that by 2035, that's 15 years away, in case you're doing the math, we are going to be spending over $1 trillion every single year treating heart disease. Like, that is completely unsustainable. And here's the truth: 80% of it need not exist, right? Like, this is not a wish, it's a fact. There are communities around the globe where heart disease is almost non-existent. The biggest difference between them and us is what they eat. So we did analysis on what would happen if we used our foods twice a day for 30 days. So number one is we found on average we reduced LDL or bad cholesterol by 9% in 30 days. If you did that across the US population, you would you would dethrone heart disease as the number one killer of Americans, which has been the case for over 100 years. Heart disease has killed more Americans than, unfortunately, any other disease. Number two, we looked at the economic impact. Okay, what if you got 9% LDL reduction across the population? For every dollar you spend on our foods, it doesn't have to be our foods. If you just did it with another food, we happen to be something that had a measurable health effect, so we use that. But if you spent $1 on our foods, you would save $2.32 in healthcare costs. This is functional food, has a tremendous payback. There's nothing like it.
Let me add on.
Amazing statistics.
So let's talk about the national debt for a second. $3.1 trillion spent on preventable chronic disease. I know we're all talking about the same thing here, but imagine if that $3.1 trillion was back in the economy and people were well. I mean, oh my God. Please let God come down and fix this one. So yes, it's huge, and the choices are endless. I mean, Liz's food is brilliant, and I eat it twice a day, and look at me, I'm perfect now. Well, at least I've got a good sense of humor. But she literally saved my life because of her processes, and she's affected hundreds of thousands of people. But it's not enough. It's got to be the millions of people. So that's what we're here to spread the word and get people. And by the way, it tastes good. We're not talking about stop eating French fries. We're talking about, and this is to Marshall, start using an air fryer to cook them instead of and avocado oil instead of greasy crap that you find at fast food restaurants. And by the way, they will change. So the fast foods restaurants of the world will start making what the consumer demands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Demands it. If you say, hey, I want an air fry, which is 80% less bad fat, they're going to deliver it. Anyway, sorry, I jumped in.
No, it's good. Consumer rules.
Yeah.
Okay, now the third question: how can companies profit from functional foods? Who would like to go first?
I'll jump.
Okay, Adam, you're up.
I think that it's an immense opportunity, and I think that this time in history, we're poised to do this. So, if you think back, and some of the viewers may not even know what a Timex watch is, but a Timex watch was $1,000 when it came out, and now they produce them for 20 cents. So the shift from sort of junk food to good food is a matter of use. And economically will become valuable. Now, there are so many things. So from the insurance industry standpoint, and make no mistake, the insurance companies are our friends. They have the same goals. Their goal is to make sure that you're not sick, because when you're sick, you cost them money. And so, we vilify insurance companies all the time. Well, they are dying. They're trying really hard to figure out how to add functional food because they know their costs will go down. So insurance companies, profits will go up and costs comes down and outcomes increase, all through functional foods. Now, so that's, I can go on though, for restaurants and grocery stores, and health clubs, there's just endless ways for them to make money, from functional foods. And it's like profiting with a purpose.
I would say that one of the things that is important is to be a little innovative in how we deliver it. Like, and actually COVID has made this more more normal, which is to purchase food online, right? I mean, when we started and we were an e-commerce company, it was very unusual for, and this is going back many years, but it was very unusual for people to actually purchase food online. That was weird. Now it's very normal, and COVID has accelerated that. But here's the cool thing: if you go direct to consumer, you eliminate all these costs that are added along the way, which artificially add cost to foods that shouldn't cost as much. So we're able to use higher quality ingredients, which is the whole thing, right? Like if you start with good ingredients or great ingredients, you're going to end up with better health, but that costs money, right? And so it's got to come out of something on the consumer end. So for us, it's that ability to eliminate all these layers of added costs that don't need to exist, and we can deal directly with the end consumer. I think that really helps.
Thank you. Great insight. Last but not least, Marshall.
Yeah, what we're seeing companies can benefit by having functional foods and having what we call a food philosophy in their space. Number one, employees can be safer on the job, less body pain. If your blood sugar, for example, you're a truck driver and your blood sugar is stable, you're going to have consistent energy, better mental clarity. You're not going to be a liability for yourself, for those around you on the road, for your company. So that's a real specific example. But any profession can benefit from that. Also being able to have a culture that supports, real health initiatives like that, you're going to retain more employees because they're going to feel valued. And that's a big thing. What we're finding now is, with the whole fractured work environment, people, even if they are in an office, they're not having those human connections. So being able to value food as a way to bring people together, and also, oh, by the way, if you have pre-existing chronic diseases, you need to get your act together, say that softly, of course, and providing engaging experiences where they can learn, incorporate that into their life, and build community. That's going to be very attractive, because now you're going to have retention, employee retention, less, there's tons of benefits. My word is going garbled, but you get where I'm going with that.
Yes, very much so. Okay, the next question. What are the barriers to success? Who'd like to address that first?
I'll go if I may.
Please.
The whole nutrition thing, I think, has always been that's nice. That's a nice to have. And I think companies need to start looking at it as a performance tool. Again, going back to the manufacturing area, you have a cafeteria with all this junk food and stuff, and your workers that are doing the machines and operating the facility are eating this stuff. Well, they're putting themselves in a pretty bad position. So it is a wellness tool, but it needs to be looked at from a performance standpoint. I think the survey is 15 years old now, but 90% folks don't really know how to cook anymore. And their idea of cooking is opening up a box. So we need to teach people, how to cook, or get someone that can either cook for them nourishing foods that taste great, or they can have affordable, great tasting, nourishing foods. And then again, the last point is just people need to have a real frank conversation as a society about it's up to us to take care of ourselves. There's a lot of dynamics going on out there, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. And how do we create an empowering and supportive environment for people to make those connections and sustain it? Like, I love what Liz was saying, how you got to do this stuff in baby steps. You can't go from Coca-Cola to kale shakes. This doesn't work in a day. That is over time, maybe, but definitely it's all about baby steps. And so those are the barriers.
Thank you. Liz, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, so it always comes down to time and money, right? But from the world I see is so pharma advantaged, right? Like everything is towards paying for drugs and ignoring food. Like, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. It costs $8 or less. Sometimes they're free for my patients to get cholesterol lowering drugs for a month. Okay, how much good food does $8 buy? Not much, right? So you end up in this bizarre situation where we are subsidizing the cost of expensive pharmaceuticals to cover the unsubsidized cost of inexpensive foods, right? Like it is insane what we are doing. So it's so that money part matters, right? And so people, and people perceive eating well to be expensive, which it isn't. You can look at studies that have shown it isn't, but you have to know what you're doing again. And this is where, back to Marshall's point, people don't know how to cook anymore. It's just, and that back to time, right? They don't have time because they used to spend all their time on food preparation and preservation and procurement back, 200 years ago. Now they're spending their time, on their keyboards and in their cars and on the phones and, and constantly, interacting with other people in media and shuffling their kids around to sports. So it's just, there's life barriers, and then there's economic incentives that are completely perverse.
Yeah, totally agree.
Adam?
Yeah, perverse is a good word. The biggest barrier, and both Marshall and Liz touched on it, is knowledge. And so Marshall said nobody knows how to cook anymore, and it's become an art. Again, another privilege I've been involved with the Harvard School of Public Health and the Culinary Institute of America and their Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives program. And this is where Harvard and the CIA, Culinary Institute, not the feds, get together and teach doctors and chefs how to prepare nutritious, delicious, functional foods. And now they've seen over 15 years, about nearly 10,000 people, and it's extending. But doctors have no education about nutrition, and no required. Liz is the anomaly here. Pharmacists don't have a clue. Their job is to not kill you with what's behind the counter. Your general practitioner is overloaded with being a concierge trying to figure out where to go. So we need to mandate all of this as part of the doctoral process. But it needs to start back to, God forbid, I hated home ec, but it needs to start with how on foods in high school and junior high school. So, the whole system needs to be revised to do this. And it's big nuts to crack.
Thank you. Fabulous ideas, fabulous thoughts, and stuff for people to mull over and adapt to. Okay, the next question. What are your intended health, wellness, and economic incomes? Adam, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, so the outcomes that we're looking for really are the reduction of chronic disease. And again, success is 1%. A miracle is 10%. A colossal change is 25%. And the good news is that these things, the 1%, the 10%, are in reach in the next 5 years. So I mean, health outcomes, bottom line, is just reduction of those food-caused chronic diseases. And again, it's not the bad food; it's how we prepare it. And it's not the potato in the field, but I shouldn't be eating a potato, and so I eat purple yams. That's just for me, for my body chemistry. So it's So that's it. And economically, Craig Sanders, the CEO of Blue Cross, said at Minova last year, at a conference here in town, that the people will start profiting from. People will start promoting good food when it's profitable, and so we have to create consumer demand, and then there's no choice. And you look at General Mills, and guess what? They've bought a dozen great brands like the Lara Bar, and they're making good money from it. and the outcome is great. It's good food, and so we need more of that.
Thank you, Adam. Marshall?
Outcomes that we're trying to do is, when we call it smart nutrition is incorporated into people's lives and in the work culture, you're going to improve performance, you're going to have less accidents, you're going to have more engaged employees, it's going to make jobs easier for people, and ultimately over time, if it's consistent, it's going to lower healthcare costs. And then for families, because that's a big focus that I focus on our kids and families, is when kids are being nourished and not just fed, they can develop to their full potential, both mentally and physically. So those are, and I think, like to Adam's point, the bar is pretty low. The bar is super low, and there's a lot of work to do, but we can make it happen.
Thank you, Marshall. Liz, do you have any words around this?
Yeah, but again, I think coming back to outcomes, so we're, because we're sort of so grounded in science to begin with in terms of product formulation and what we're trying to achieve. So we have benchmarks around what we're trying to achieve in terms of cholesterol reduction. So, this is the thing. There are, this will blow your mind. There's 70 million Americans who should be on cholesterol-lowering drugs. There's 95 million who have high cholesterol, but 70 million of those, the vast majority of those, should be on drugs. That's crazy. So one of the things I would like to see is having fewer people require the drugs because they're eating differently. It's such a food-driven condition. But for us, we measure our success in terms of our company by the lives changed. So how many people do we have, being repeat customers because they have found the products to be great taste, impactful from a health perspective, and useful, right? And so that is how we are measuring success, and we hope to be in the hundreds of thousands within a couple of years.
Very positive to end on that note. Okay, now lastly, we're going to look at fighting COVID. COVID has changed the world forever, as you all have been stating. And the CDC has declared that less than 6% of COVID fatalities occur in people absent of comorbidities. And the bottom line is that illness begets illness and dramatically increases the odds of death from COVID. So, first question is, what does this mean for society? Who would like to kick that off?
I'll take it. I think if nothing highlights having, maintaining your health, like being a sitting duck for highly transmittable infectious disease and have bad outcomes from that, it's this. This has been a big wake up call for, I think, society in general. I see it in my patients, but it's interesting. You see this dichotomy. There's people who have taken this opportunity and run with it and said, okay, I really need to change my life and really try to change, my health trajectory. And other people who have, responded to this by, gaining the COVID-19, right? They're at home, they are, they're reaching for comfort foods, and they're actually sort of going in the opposite direction. So I think this has actually brought out two different worlds for us as a company. We've seen we've grown 2.5-fold in the last 3 months because of, I think, interest in what we do, the home delivery, so many things have kind of come together for us. So there's obviously a great market for healthy, sustainable foods. But it's for me, it's been an interesting dichotomy to see the two different responses, especially, again, maybe these people are in my office for a reason, right? But people who have really struggled with this and have actually, their health has deteriorated during COVID.
Thank you. Marshall?
Well,
comments on this?
So, Liz, great point. I was going to say what you said. The other thing that has created a whole new set of challenges, and I mentioned this earlier, is the fracturing of the workplace. So companies are going to have to start rebuilding that workplace culture and having an effective way to do it. Now, the good news is, because we know that people have to get healthier if they want to minimize complications of COVID. And we've got this fracturing. They can use food and and that collaborative experience of doing webinars and things like that as a way to bring people together rather than talking about boring work stuff. They can talk about really pertinent, interesting things where they can learn skills and tools and share ideas. And so having some kind of community focused virtual gatherings as a simple way to do it. But that whole fraction of the workplace has definitely thrown people for a loop, and it's for people at home too. I mean, with a lot of people kids distance learning, having to deal with getting food ready, having to make sure that kids are not grazing all day and going into food comas, but having the right nourishment so they can stay awake, stay present. And like the case with like at our house, for my wife to be a little less stressed because the kids are not all over the place because they're eating the right nourishment. So a lot of new dynamics that we weren't dealing with before, but there's a lot of opportunity to help.
Thank you for your input in covering that. Adam?
Gosh, I'm not sure I can add anything, and that's a miracle in itself. But I think it's really important to understand that this is not the last pandemic, and the world does need to wake up because another one's coming. This is number 10. We know of at least, or 11, and the possibility of there being another one in 2 years is high. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we need to talk community and resilience, and people need to embrace that, or else they're, who knows what's next down the pike. Could make COVID look like a little bunny rabbit. So it might be our last chance. It's a great chance, and I think it's an interesting time to be alive because I don't want to go through it again, but I'm glad I'm in it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Thank you. With those comments, going into the next question, Adam, what's involved in the fight against disease and viruses?
Again, I'm going to go back to education and facts. So there's this wonderful thing called fake news that apparently is new, but fake news has been around since the first printing press rolled. Actually, since the first words came out of our mouths, and so the big challenge here is differentiating in between, what's fake and what's real. And I do think that what we all share here is that science is the answer. And science is not perfect. I mean, I know in my life, eggs have been bad for me 3 times. I'm eating lots of eggs now, and I'm still alive and well. So, science changes, but it's the only thing we can rely upon at any given time in history. So to me, it's education and facts and truth and trust.
Marshall, do you have comments around this?
Yeah, we're never going to go back to the old ways. So, organizations need to reinvent themselves and how they create culture. The home, people in their homes, they're going to have to, like Liz was saying a few questions ago, there's people that have really taken initiative to cook for themselves and discover great tasting foods that they can prepare and all that. And then you got the other side where it's like, woe is me, what do I do? So people have to reframe how they look at their lives and how they show up in their lives. And, I have no shame in, I always say, it's like, I don't want to be a liability on my kids in 10, 15 years. So that's why I practice what I preach, and people can connect to that why. That would help with this process. And I also think that healthcare is going to play a huge role more than ever before, because they obviously can't do, and Liz, you obviously speak way better than I can to this, but you can't keep having this ballooning, financial and health crisis. So healthcare is going to have to start talking to people differently, and I think they are about, it's not just like, hey, here's a second on, maybe you should try some different foods that, here's a pamphlet that's printed out from 1995. More so, really start educating, because again, people have been conditioned to just look to the healthcare system to take care of them, and so healthcare has a huge opportunity to be a leader in this and helping with this paradigm shift.
Yeah. And
Thanks
you know,
for bringing that up, Liz.
yeah, and there's programs that have actually started that are really innovative, but they're microscopic. But for example, you know, Medicare Advantage now has, you know, they get money from the government to, you know, because they're saving, you know, they're on the one hand they're saving money on the care of you know, older individuals, these Medicare Advantage plans, but they've got this money left over that they can then use for other things. And there are, you know, there are programs that are now being devised that actually encourage food as you know, nutrition as part of the treatment. You know, SNAP, which is, you know, supplementary nutrition, you know, programs, believe it or not, didn't allow online food purchases, which was like during the middle of COVID, right? That was a tragedy because you had people who can't, like, the place they can only go is their local, you know, gas station or bodega or whatever. Like, there's no healthy foods, and yet they're, you know, they can't travel to get better foods, and yet they don't have the money that they have, they can't use towards online purchases. So things are changing. Like, I think, you know, that this whole pandemic has made us relook at what it is that we're doing. It's going to take time. It's going to take time for all these things to move, because you know, it's like we're moving the, you know, realigning the Titanic, but it's happening, and that's really encouraging.
Thank you. And under this particular topic, starting with you, Adam, what's required and needed for success in your mind?
Yeah, it's alignment of forces, if you will. So, you know, I think of Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives, and the initiative to educate the masses. It's going to take everyone. It's going to take the high school teacher, the high school principal, the college. I mean, it really does take an alignment, and there are people who are charged with this, and you know, we can't count on the top level of government to do it. We have to do it on a grassroots level and push it up the whole. Unfortunately, that's the way. It's going to be we the people, and it's corporations. I mean, you know, Cargill's doing great things, General Mills is doing great things. And people are spending real money. Minneapolis, in particular, is a town of innovation and the health and food, and lots of great things are happening. But it's the beginning. It's not. We're not even, you know, we're sort of at the very beginning. So we need a lot more effort here.
Hi, Grant. Good. How are you?
Who would like to go next on what's required and needed for success?
I mean, education's paramount. You know, having a no baloney conversation at a mass media level, and I don't know how that gets accomplished, but you know, just people need to keep learning how nourishing is different than eating, and then you learn how to cook. And you know, workplaces are a huge part of people's lives because we all have jobs for the most part. That having that environment support people in their development and well-being, and so I think that's what's needed.
So I kind of see two ends. I see sort of at the beginning, sort of going forward. I think, and Adam mentioned this before. In my mind, the answer to all of this is home economics, like real home ec, right? Where you learn how to, you know, debone a chicken and, you know, shop for a family of 4 for the week and plan a menu and preserve food and cook and actually even like balance a checkbook and, you know, like life skills. We need, you know, there's children leaving high school without life skills, and that needs to be in there, but especially centered around nutrition and cooking. So that's one. So that's kind of on the, you know, over many years we'll get to the point where we really want to be. On the more immediate, is if we could get insurance companies to start paying or partially subsidizing nutrition, that's a game changer. And this is like the thing I'm going to go down fighting for, and hopefully I won't go down because, you know, you tell me it can't be done, and I'm going like, oh yeah, watch me. And that is to get, you know, our foods covered as partially or, you know, or wholly as part of cholesterol management, and not for step one, but for the avalanche of change that would follow if you have food and nutrition being a covered or partially covered benefit. Like, that would change the world overnight in terms of what food producers put out, how we think about nutrition, how conditions are treated, in the doctor's office. So those would be my two ends of the spectrum. The correct answer, the truly correct answer, is home ec, though. If we just have people be more involved with food and follow Marshall's advice and teachings, we wouldn't have, the chronic health issues that we have.
Thank you so much. I'd like to have each one of you sum up in, a minute, just some of your important points for today. And, Adam, thank you. I think your aspect and talks on, as I look at it, truth and trust. And when you look at Marshall, success is measured by, lives changed, and it's up to you. And both Liz and you, Marshall, are talking about it's up to you, and change starts within. And I'd like to hear each one of you sort of give a sum up of, in a minute, the important points for you. Adam?
Uh-oh. But I need an hour to think about this. Can we come back?
Yes. Marshall?
Hold it. I can cut. Thank you, Muffy. So, for us, it's all about efficacy. And this is a very different thing from counting calories or watching, our world is about, my invention, our world is all about the effectiveness of food for you as an individual. And so, from a food standpoint, that's my message. That's the only message. As an entrepreneur, it goes back to perseverance, mentorship, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Marshall?
Yeah, in a nutshell, we are working really hard on helping people connect with wanting to make these changes in their life. And again, that emotional connection and making it really specific, and then helping them chart out ways that they can do it. And a big part of being able to make the changes that you want is you need to have confidence. So a big part of what we do is just showing people that, hey, this is manageable. Like, this is approachable. It's practical. It's relevant. And when you take 1 minute a day to just practice those knife skills, after a week, only 7 minutes, I guarantee you're going to be that much more efficient. And then when you feel good about yourself that you did this, or you created this dish and it tastes wonderful and it's actually working for you, you're going to be more willing and wanting to do it again. So it's building the connections, it's building the confidence, and education is always going to be going on, because at the end of the day, what is helping my body and helping me get through the day with energy to spare might be different foods than yourself, Muffy, or from you, Adam, or for you, Liz. So we have to, again, get conscious about what helps us and what doesn't, and then make the right approaches. And, don't judge yourself, don't shame yourself, but take action and then start paying attention. And it's an amazing journey when you do it.
Liz, before you go, I just would like to say that we will go into questions, and Adam can take the questions in the chat box. So please submit your questions now while we hear from Liz. Thank you very much.
So I think I probably reflect all of our, collective opinion, and that food is medicine. We forget the power of food, right? I mean, one of the things that's always been shocking to me is that when I ask patients about what they eat, they will often tell me I'm the very first physician to even ask. And we are obsessed with the biochemical effects of a drug in our body. Like, I take Lipitor. Where does that go? What does it do? How does it affect my liver? Okay, what about the Cheeto you just ate? Right? Like, it is metabolized by the same cells. It goes through the same biochemical pathways, right? It affects our body. So I think if if I leave any, listeners or viewers with any message, is just remember, everything you put in your body has an effect. Why not put in things that are health promoting as opposed to health destroying? And what we've shown is it doesn't even have to be like this giant overhaul. Even small sustained changes can make a marked difference on health. I mean, yeah, our average LDL reduction was 9%, but you look at, in the people who participate in the study and that we've seen in our own customers, there are people who have 20, 30, 40% LDL or bad cholesterol reductions in 30 days. That's a drug effect obtained with food. And we forget how much control we have over our health and over our longevity and over how well we feel by what we do. And nutrition is absolutely key. So, and stick with it. If you're an entrepreneur, just keep going.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to questions, and if we don't get to all the questions, feel free to email, and we'll correspond that way. So Adam?
Yeah, thank you so much, Muffy. By the way, before we go there, and they're just flooding in, we've got a lot of questions here, and we are now running 7 minutes over, so but what I want to do is thanks.
We have to 1:45, so we have about
we've got 7 minutes.
7 more minutes.
All right. Well, so one of the questions we're seeing here is, and I quote, understanding the sustainable direction of the cause of chronic disease and human behavior change. I think this is a good one. How do we get people to take action and choose the right foods with better confidence in the right decision? Liz, do you want to tackle that?
So it's actually astonishing to me that we are the only animal on the planet that doesn't know what to eat. We actually do, right? Like, we instinctively know that a bowl of berries is better than a bowl of chips, right? Like, we know that. So just do the thing you know. And if you're not sure, always aim towards the less processed, the more whole, the more real, the closest to its original form, the more plant-based it is. And we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be better. So every time you choose the bowl of berries over the bowl of chips, like, give yourself a pat on the back. I always say that, for my patients, when I talk about, it's like 1 can of soda a day. Seems like not much. Over the course of a year, it's 30 cases of soda. Like, you would never go to a store, buy 30 cases, put soda, put it in your kitchen, sit there and go, okay, I'm going to sit here and drink this. You'd say, well, that's ridiculous. That's bad for me. Like, yeah, okay. So you're just doing this over a year. So this is where I like this tiny change, like eliminate a can of soda a day. Like, you've eliminated 30 cases of soda from your body in a year. So it's small, sustained changes. Follow your instinct. There is no magic pill. There is no magic diet. There is no quick fix. It's literally, follow your gut.
Liz, and I'm going to jump in here because you taught me this. Liz prescribed me a book instead of a pill. It's called Eat Yourself Slim by Michael Montagnac. And by the way, I will let you know that you can come back to the website, and I'll talk about this at the very beginning. I mean, at the end, where you can come. But it was small changes for me. I had to change things like potatoes; they were too starchy for me. Well, so I went to purple yams. This was no big deal, but it changed my life. And by the way, purple yams are much better tasting to me. I have a buddy, Robbie, and Robbie eats potato chips like they're going out of style, and the worst ones. And I introduced him to beet chips, and he said, "Oh, that sounds disgusting." And then he had one, and it's like, "Oh my God, that's fantastic." Robbie has lost weight from just changing that one thing, and not only lost weight. We talk about weight, and it's a bad word, really, but he's healthier. We don't care what you weigh as long as you're healthier, right? So, Marshall.
Yeah, just real quick to that. When you think of the big determinants of health, or public health is saying 5 or 6 things. Move more, get better sleep, less stress in your life, drink less alcohol, smoke less, right? And then there's the nutrition piece, and everything else is a more or less. Where with food and nutrition, you have to unlearn potentially decades of feelings, thoughts, behaviors, and then relearn new ones. And so again, to Liz's point, you got to take it in baby steps, but we have to have a dramatically different approach. You can't just say, oh, do more, do less. You've got to unpack all that baggage, because a lot of times people make decisions because they had a bad experience as a 5-year-old, and I'll save you my experience for another time. And they gotta face that stuff and move on, and then reframe how they look at it, and then take those steps.
Yeah, one last point on that question is the baby steps and the exploration. So, here I'm drinking, thanks Puppy, hint. And hint is water with a hint of flavor. And it's giving, the woman who founded it is giving Pepsi a run for their money for sugared water. And Pepsi in response is going out and there are now hundreds of drinks that Pepsi and Coke are own or buy or engineering that are actually good for you. So, now the job is to be explorative. And I know that's hard for people, but this tastes a lot better than a Pepsi to me. There are drinks like Zevia that taste a lot like Pepsi and Coke. And again, they're not full of the junk. So.
Well, I want to say thank you to the panelists. We are running out of time, and I don't want somebody to be in the middle of answering a question and have us go dark. But I want to thank the panelists for all your input, your knowledge, your preparation, your showing up, your passion, enthusiasm. And I want to thank all the viewers who are on the program for showing up. And thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Are we just clicking leave now?
I think we leave, yeah.
All right.